I also took a writing workshop recently out at the Writers Center in Bethesda. So I'm going to read a couple of pieces that came out of that workshop. And the sort of spirit of the workshop was to try and get us to write and access creativity in a way that is a little different than I tend to write, at least. I usually have an idea when I start writing, and the workshop leader really tried to get us to sort of step away from that notion and just kind of write without any idea and see what emerged, and then from what emerged, kind of shape it into something and see where that led you. And so this is one of those pieces that's called A Braided Head. You spend all your time roosting, hiding from the wind. The apple tree on the hill is a lot of things. None of them a mango or a siren or a rose with its thorns. The fog is not fog. The trees aren't real. The sky is not. The bird you placed in the sky, just another way of saying your name, pretending to fly. Freedom, a thing in the bird's heart you want but cannot have. A city is just a lot of people without a town to call home. This town doesn't exist. The sun spills sweet jazz, the moonlight is soaked in blues. I sleep when I dream, always wake weary. Dreams are spun of gold and slanted light, truth abraded in love's conduit. Yesterday is a circle, time moves backward, tomorrow is hard work. You think you're writing this poem, but you're not. It's just a surrogate for all the things you don't know how to say. The grapples suspect searchlights of trying to overwork them. A gorilla tries to escape in a rickshaw that can't support it. Sundown is a landmark, yesterday a tombstone. Reading obituaries and combing for details, I grasp what shutters are for. Piercing the pilgrim-hearted light, a breeze ushers in the night. Circles are much like squares in the geometry of midnight. All pegs end up in the same black hole. Not all of them shine on the way in. Class called The Whole 9 Yards. It was based on a writing exercise by Rita Dove, who's a fairly famous poet. I think she might have even been poet laureate at one point. And it was basically a list of maybe 8 or 10 words that you were supposed to use in a poem, and you were supposed to take sort of an adage or a saying that sort of used in colloquial language and sort of turn it on its head or do something new and interesting with it. So I took the phrase "the whole 9 yards" for this poem. Along Cape Cod, our house leans out towards the sea's creeping edge, much like I did when I was 5 years old, teetering on the edge of the roof, convinced all those years ago I could jump into the wind, that my arms would carry me to the gulls and gannets. Never did I suspect the plummet, never did I consider the landing, nor fear the broken wing. Now grown, I know better of folly, yet I've seen yard after childish yard, up and down the coast, flirt with seagulls. 9 whole yards have fallen into the sea. The juvenile houses, dreaming of wings, have gull-watched to the beach's edge. I wish I had a needle to stitch them down, prevent the swallowing sea, always listening, calling with its siren's voice. Come to me, it croons, the way gravity croons. Clouds cannot love you the way I can. Gulls will never accept your kind. I remember playing in the yard before the sea became so greedy. If only I could warn the house. Remember what happened when I tried to fly? In the front yard. I used to grapple with the world and my place in it. I was young and full of idealism then. Hope was like a shiny new thing I drove around the neighborhood. The years haven't been kind. Perhaps I drove recklessly. Something broke along the way. Sitting on blocks in the front yard, stripped down, the engine is still good, I tell myself. One of these days I'll put it back on the road. In the meantime, the homicide of circumstance labors to put the lie to this assertion. Who am I kidding? I'm no mechanic. I don't know the first thing about bodywork. But I know what it felt like, driving with the windows down, radio blurring in the wind. fun play on words, math, and kind of geeking me out a little bit. It's called If A, Then B. Some days, I am a fraction of a man. Each additional year adds wisdom, age, and experience to the whole. Subtracts innocence, youth, and optimism. We all suffer from division, are all decimated by time. Sometimes I find that despite being radical, my root is imaginary, impractical, becomes real only when squared. It's why I'm drawn to kindred spirits, the accrual of Fibonacci dreams. I live the geometric life, fear's exponential curve leading towards but never reaching zero, the arc of hope quickly approaching infinity. Our lives have many parallels, politics, capitalism, religion, they all end up seeming tangential. The ratio between the surface area of lies and the volume of corruption makes the perpendicular truth hard to find. It's no less than I expect. I am distracted by too many variables. My life is derivative. The median of desire is the lowest common denominator. Apathy is already greater than the sum total of our consumption, whose average is incongruent with the limit of resources, threatening the very function of everything. It's true. Sometimes I'm negative. I can't help it. But by some miracle of math, the multiplication of two negatives becomes positive. Perhaps this is the equation our species is waiting for. On March 14th each year, I contemplate the radius of my life, measure the circumference of my community, and calculate the area of my influence. The product is just one dimension of my guilt. This one is called Borrowed. You come into me, a crashing wave stinging my eyes, covering my skin in the grip of ancient mountains, cast and recast upon the shore, a mutable medium of impermanence, to remind me, this is all we are. Build if you must, and we all must, but do not forget yourself. No house can hold a spirit. No castle made of sand can contain a boundless love. Call to the wind, send your prayers to the moon, laughter is its own sunshine. This is all we are. Send your body back to the sea from which it's borrowed. The rising and falling waves are never far from your heart. Your blood follows its own ebb and flow, carrying the wind through your veins. Breath, this is all we are.